All right, so welcome to episode 2 of Keisha's Kitchen here. So this is a tired post late night hockey edition. So it's a very simple meal, relatively speaking. We got one pot, got a colander, which is pretty typical, and then our ingredients. So what we're making is there's like a video from that Gordon Ramsay made that was just like, it was really simple, and I kind of liked it and kind of adapted it into my own. So it's sausage and peppers with rice. It's really easy. There's a lot of the same techniques you'll see that I follow. So we'll start by turning on our heat, medium heat, or turning on our stove, medium heat. We got a pot here. Make sure you have a lid with it. You're gonna need that later on. So we're just turning it on medium heat, letting it do its thing. Or we're gonna cut the casing off of our sausage. So this is mild Italian sausage. If you're if you like heat, if you're used to heat, you can use hot Italian sausage. But I use mild Italian sausage, and then I add some crushed red pepper in to get the heat that I want. So the sausage, nice and easy. Bam, 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 bam. Down there. Set that aside, and then we're just gonna take them out of the casing and throw them straight in. Nice and easy. Oh, gonna be a lot of yawning on both ends, both from the videographer and from the chef today. Both of us are tired, but this recipe's so easy. Even a tired chef and videographer can pull it off. Although if the phone drops on the ground, you know that the videographer has fallen asleep. Hopefully that does not happen. All right, so we got our 5 sausages in there. Good. Oh, excuse you, Julian. You are in the way. Get our sausages in there. Give our hands a little wash. Julian has no regrets being in the way. In fact, he's waiting for us to drop some stuff. All right. So we're giving our hands a little wash. And at this stage, so you got a decision to make here. So you can either kind of break your sausage up into like little chunks like that. Or you can kind of like just go at it and break it up into smaller chunks. We've kind of done it both ways, and we've learned that we like it into smaller chunks. But if you wanted, you can kind of break it up into like little meatballs. And that's completely fine too. But that's just something to play around if you make this a couple times. Our preference is to break it up into smaller pieces. So like the other recipe, I got it on medium heat, just letting it get some color, okay? That's good enough for now. We'll break it up more later. So that's just gonna do its thing for a while. If we hear it starting to pop, like right now it's sizzling, if we hear it start to pop, we dial that heat down a bit. All right, so we're just letting that do its thing for a while. And then we're just gonna cut these. And you cut onions and peppers in this recipe. And it doesn't really matter what you do. You can either cut them into like a smaller dice or into larger chunks. I feel like I've done larger chunks recently, and I've kind of liked that. So that's what we're gonna go for today. All right. As long as they're like relatively uniform. So something like that. Sure. Why not? That works. Our camera person seems to be distracted by a dog, but that's okay. And she has her hand up, like she's kind of offended, but that's fine. And like I know with the previous recipe, I've like taken out the whites. If you want to, you can. It's a lazy Friday episode, so we're not even gonna do it. It's not really gonna mess with this recipe too much. Again, with the chili, it kind of adds like a little bit of bitterness that we don't really want. But for this recipe, it's fine. It's fine. There's a little bit of bitterness at the end because we add a lemon, so it's all good. So yeah, so we're just doing a rough chop, right? Like it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like fully uniform, as long as it's like close, right? Yeah. Kind of running out of cutting board space, but that's fine. Remember, like usually I would use my mise en place bowls, but for this one, for this series, we'll call it, we'll call it a series. I'm getting a nod from the director here that we can call it a series. For this series, we're not using mise en place bowls because it's all about minimum dishes, minimum effort, maximum flavor, right? Okay, so we got our three peppers. That's gonna be good there. Our onion, chop off the top, barely chop off the root. If you find you're crying when you're chopping your onions, don't chop the root. That's where like most of the juices will kind of escape. But I'm pretty sure like my eyes are calloused at this point from the from the onion juices. And we have a spectator there. Actually, the star of the show. I'm just here. He's the real star. Trust me. Yeah. So just again, and then, bam, take off that top layer. Okay. So for the onions, with the onions, we want about the same size as the pepper. So you don't have to use red pepper. I bought a 4-pack of red peppers because they were on sale. They were like $4, so like $1 a pepper. So that's decent. Usually if I do this and there's no peppers on sale, I pick a red pepper, a yellow pepper, an orange pepper, and then go to town. So right now I'm just cutting the root off, because what I'm going to do is make something about that size. So we're going to go there, there, there. 3 cuts, easy peasy. 1/2, 1, and 2. Look at that, easy as can be. And like you get pieces like that, you get some smaller ones. It's fine. It'll all turn out. It'll all turn out delightful. Just because of the techniques that we're using. All right, so we got our onions and red pepper prepped. So then we're gonna come back to our pan here, which is sizzling away nicely. We'll turn over one of the pieces. We just want to get a little color. Remember that browning that we talked about, the Maillard reaction? There's a bit there. We're going to leave it a bit because it's going to brown more in the center than the outside. So like if I turn over the outside one, it's probably not going to be very brown yet. So yeah, it's not. I can see it. You probably can't. And that's fine. My eyes only. So we're just going to leave it. We're just going to leave that. Maybe press it down a bit so it gets a little bit more contact, a little bit more surface area to brown. So that's fine. We can measure out our rice. So for this much, you can do like 1.5 or 2 cups. I really like rice, so I'm gonna go with 2 cups. If you don't like rice as much, go with 1.5 cups. The thing is, you're just gonna have to change your the amount of broth that you add later on. So if you go, we're doing 2 cups of rice, so we're gonna go 4 cups of liquid. It's a 2-to-1 water to rice ratio. So if you go 1.5 cups of rice, you're gonna go 3 cups of broth. So I like to rinse my rice because it's very starchy. And what the starch does, I mean, we're using short grain rice, so it's gonna clump together anyway. Because it's just how short grain rice is. But that's fine. We kind of preferred it. If you have basmati, it's fine. Yeah, just use whatever rice you have on hand. It's not really going to change it too much. If you use basmati, it might just be a little bit more nutty. So we're just giving it a quick rinse. And you can see, you may be able to see in there, it's like a little bit cloudy, the water that's coming out of it. And that's just the starch rinsing off of the rice. So that's good enough, probably. And then we're just gonna set it in here for now. Just let our meat cook a little bit longer. There's not really too much more to prep. It's a pretty quick recipe. I guess we can do our garlic. Maybe check up on the beef or on the sausage. So the outside piece is starting to get browned. So I should probably show that. So it's starting to get browned. We'll leave it for a little bit more. Slice up a couple of cloves of garlic. So you don't really need to mince this. You can if you want, but like I think the beauty of this recipe is you don't really have to go too ham with the chopping. Like it's like that's like really quick and easy to chop up if you have a sharp knife and have gained the skills. So yeah, so we got, I don't know how many cloves. 1, 2. We like garlic, so 3, 4, 5. Those 2 are small, so maybe we'll throw 1 more in there. So like 5 cloves of garlic, why not? So the root's still on, just a light hammer fist, bam. There we go. Now we're taking off this, the skin, bam. 1, 2, 3. Or this one's like a little bit, got a little bit of crap on it, a little bit of rotting. We're just gonna cut that out. It doesn't like, it's all good. The garlic's still gonna be fine. Maybe if you bought your garlic a while ago, it'll have a sprout down the middle. That's completely fine. It's just gonna not be the greatest flavor, but like it doesn't really matter. You know, we've cooked with them before. It's not a big deal. So we're just chopping off the roots, and then for us into the compost, if you have it. There's our one with the crap, the little bad spot. There's another one with a bad spot. We're just gonna chop that off real quick. At this point, come back to our meat. Our meat's probably nicely browned at this point. Let's see. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that browning. That's what you want. That's what you want. What you want right there, okay? So you got nice browning on one side. Flip it over. We're going to break it up a bit more at this point because we got some good browning. You don't have to have it like perfectly brown, but like look at that. Like that is going to be, that little piece is going to be delightful. Packed with flavor. And then you can see we got our fond building up at the bottom there. That's all the caramelized meat. We let that's a big yes. That's what you want right there. That is Flavor Town. Trust me. We're just breaking it up into smaller bits. For us, the smaller the better. But you know, it's Friday. I'm probably not going to go as small as I normally would today, because you know, late night hockey, right? You get in late. We've worked all day. We just want something that's gonna fill our tummies and be easy. Yeah, we're just breaking apart the bigger ones and letting it do its thing. So that's like good enough, I suppose. But we still got a little bit of pink on the meat, right? So we're gonna cook it till the meat doesn't have any pink. We technically don't have to with the technique that we're doing, but I mean, it's just kind of good practice, because like what I'm gonna be doing is kind of throwing the rice in and then cooking it for another like 20 minutes. So it will cook through eventually, but we're gonna let it cook through, let the beef or the sausage cook through to render some of the fat. We'll get a lot more grease when we kind of come back. All right. So then we're coming back here. We got our garlic to chop. So we don't even need to mince it. Just something like this is completely fine. Because what we're doing is we're gonna throw it in there, cook it a little bit, and then we're just gonna, with the cooking of the rice, it'll become soft, and the flavors will just kind of melt in there real nice. Careful not to chop off your fingers. I'm not really using proper technique, but I'm a rebel without a cause, as Danielle would tell you. Right, dearie? She's shaking her head no. So yeah, so we got some larger pieces. We got some smaller pieces. It's all good. It's all good. Trust me, it'll work out in the end. So yeah, so we got our pepper, onion, garlic. Here's some cilantro. We'll kind of add that later on in the cooking process, so I don't need to chop it yet. And then our lemon that we talked about we'll add later. So this is something I would suggest you get, but you don't need to. You can get like the boxed broth. So this is just a substitute for broth, better than bouillon. We find it tastes a lot better. But if you don't have the fridge space, just get a box thing of broth. It's good. Usually we'd be making our own, or we'd be using our homemade broth. But yeah, so like it just has the instructions right on the top. So 1 teaspoon, 1 cube, 1 can. So that 250 mils, I think that's a cup. So if we're using 4 cups, we're going to use 4 teaspoons. But, you know, for most things that I do, I just kind of eyeball it, right? Especially with cooking, at least. So we're coming back to our pot. I think at this point, our sausage is cooked through. Kind of break apart some of the larger chunks. There's no pink in the middle. So, like, there's not actually a lot of grease in there. I like, if you have a lot of grease, you can remove it. I don't even actually need to, but I'm going to do it anyway, just in case you get some greasy sausage. So we're just removing it, and look at all that caramelized meat at the bottom. Just delightful. That's a lot of flavor. So I'm going to... Julian's just having a time on the couch there, just slowly woofing life away for whatever reason. Yeah, look at that. That is just that fond on the bottom. That's really what you want. And again, like I said this in the chili vid, if you're using non-stick, you may just not be able to develop that fond, which is why I like cast iron, stainless steel, whatever. So we're turn down the heat a bit because it's getting a bit smoky. We don't want that. So I'm gonna start with throwing in onions. Okay, so the onions. Bam. We're just gonna break them apart. Break it apart so it'll cook. We just want them to start cooking a little bit, and then we're gonna throw in the peppers. All right. You can't break it apart like that. Use your hands. As long as you have chef's hands, you'll be all right. Probably would have been better for me to break this apart before I threw it in, but I mean, we're really freestyling it as I do. Danielle's nodding in approval. Sometimes she approves, sometimes she does not, but usually it turns out all right. Okay, so I got to turn down the heat a little bit more because we just want a quiet little sweat. So again, to help. So the fond right there, we need something to help release the fond. So a liquid. So for this, we're gonna add a little bit of salt, which will help draw out moisture from the onions, but not too much. It was just a little pinch. So like I just used like 3 fingers, and then put it in. Not too much, because then it'll be too salty. You're gonna kind of that's one of those things, like the salt level of dishes. Like you just gotta learn to feel it out, and it's better to undersalt dishes and then add more, because you can't really take apart or take away a dish that's too salty unless you're like adding a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's better to just use too little salt than too much. Bam. So this has been in there for a minute or so. Just gonna kind of let it go a little bit longer, because I'm gonna add the peppers next, and the onions are okay to get really melty, but if you overcook the peppers, it gets a little bit too melty, especially when we're cooking the rice with peppers. It's gonna really soften them up. The onions will hold up nicer to that, but the peppers could turn into mush, and mush is not great. I mean, maybe some people like mushy peppers, but I like a little bit of body. So, if you want, at this point, a little sample for the chef, you know? Quality control. Sausage tastes great, let me tell you. So our onions, starting to soften a bit. Just a little bit. You can try to break it apart. You should still feel a little bit of resistance. You can kind of feel it like grind as you push through it. That's good, that's good. It's time to add the peppers. We're adding the peppers. Again, just 3 fingers, right? 3 fingers, little pinch of salt in there. You don't need a lot, because the better than bouillon, especially, is going to add more salt to the mix. I know you can kind of see that our fond is just continuing to build up. Just continue to build up. Hopefully it's not burning for you because we've turned down our heat to like a low, like a 2 or whatever. The peppers are going to release a lot more moisture that might let the fond release. It probably won't for us, not with how it's looking today, but sometimes it will. So next we can kind of prep some of the cilantro. So I've got a little bit of scraggly cilantro here. And then I also got like a fresh thing of cilantro. So I don't know, if you get like a big bunch like this, I'd say like, we really like cilantro. So I'd say use like half the bunch. So there's some like bad stems in there. Well, we're gonna give it a rinse and then I'll pick out some of the bad leaves. All right. Give it a good rinse because there's probably like some dirt and stuff in there. You don't want any of that. Unless you really like the crunch. So we are going to chop off the roots, and then again we're going to chop a little bit higher. So we got our leaves here, which we'll add later. So then we have these are just roots. They still have really good flavor. A lot of people don't utilize them properly or well. I think most people would probably throw these out, but I think that they actually add a really, really nice cilantro flavor. So you don't have to use as many leaves. You can get more bang for your buck with your cilantro. So I got like a nice fine cut with the cilantro stems, and there's some leaves in there. It's fine. That's just going in with the rice. That's going in with the rice and the broth, and then this part is gonna get reserved for later. We'll add it later as a garnish, and then, well, we're gonna throw it all in the pot and then save like a few teaspoons for garnish. So we're still stirring our pot. Oh yeah, our fond is releasing actually. So a little bit releasing. We're just kind of scraping up the bottom, seeing if we can get any of that fond out, because that's good flavor. We want it off the bottom of the pot. We want it in our dish. If it doesn't release now, that's okay, as long as it's not burned. If it's burned, then it's not really the greatest flavor. But this is looking good. It's a little nice and dark. If it does burn, that's okay. It's just not going to be the nicest flavor. It's not the end of the world, right? So I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit more, just kind of prepping for the next stuff that we're going to add. Because we're going to add the garlic, cook that off a bit. Like at this point, our peppers, some of them are going to be cooked a bit. Some of them are still going to be kind of raw, and that's fine. That's fine. It's not going to... They will be cooked by the end of the dish, because we're going to be simmering it for 20 minutes in our chicken broth or whatever. Kind of turned it up a bit, and then we're just going to make a little well if we're able to. And then in with the garlic. So I find, like, if you don't have, like... We have one of these wonderful bench scrapers that you could just scoop it up. If you don't have that, you can just use the back of the knife. Don't use the sharp side. You're going to make it dull and it's kind of unsafe. Just carefully drop it in. This is usually what I do. I think Danielle kind of likes the bench scraper, but if I'm doing a lot of chopping, the bench scraper is quite nice, not gonna lie. So there's our garlic. You can add a little bit of salt to it. I think I probably have enough salt, so I'm not going to. And then, there's some bigger pieces of garlic. Maybe we just break it apart a bit. Maybe we do. Maybe you don't. I got nothing else to do. So we're just gonna stir it in a bit, let it cook off a little bit, and just chill. We're chilling. How are we doing for time?
25.
25, Jesus.
Well, 24.
24. You know what? That's not terrible, I guess. Like, it's gonna be like an hour recipe maybe, because I still gotta add some stuff. But like we've kind of done most of the work at this point, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So the garlic it's fine, right? Like we can kind of it's not going to be fully cooked, but it's taken some of the raw edge off. So we're just kind of mixing everything in. And you can see what I was talking about, that the fond might release. Like, there really isn't a lot of stuff at the bottom of that pot, which is nice. That's what you're looking for. So at this point, back in with the sausage. And see, like, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I didn't even really need to drain that. Like, if you don't have a lot of oil in the bottom of your pot, you could leave your sausage in, throw your onions in, then your peppers, make a well, and then throw in your garlic. But I don't know. Sometimes you just get stuck in your ways, I guess, and I don't really care about doing dishes, because I know for this recipe in particular, it's like I gotta wait 20 minutes to cook the rice. So while the rice is cooking, I'm gonna prep. I got a little salad I'm gonna prep, and then I'm gonna do the dishes. So we return the sausage, and then we're gonna throw the rice in there, just like that. Okay, and you don't need to like cook the rice, but what this is doing is just kind of it's just helping infuse some of the flavor into the rice. So we're just kind of giving it a stir, and what you're gonna see is we're gonna do this for a few minutes, and it's gonna kind of, right now since we rinsed it, it's gonna be really white. You're gonna see some of those grains of rice just kind of turn a little bit more translucent, and you might even get a little bit of a nuttier flavor. So again, I'm gonna turn up the heat to medium at this point. Now that the rice is in there, things are cooked. I'm kind of prepping everything because we're eventually gonna throw in the broth and need to boil it. So why not turn up the heat now? So our better than bouillon, we did 2 cups of rice. So you want 4 cups of water. And you could actually do a little bit less, because if you want to do like a 1/4 cup less, you could actually get away with it, because the onions and the peppers will release some juices, but it's fine. It's fine to just do a 2-to-1 ratio, keep it nice and simple. And some of that rice is it's getting a little bit more translucent, which is what you want. And it's going to be soaking up all that juices, and there's actually, you might even develop a second pond, which isn't so bad. So we got our 4 cups of water. Open up our thing. We're going to do about 4 teaspoons. 4 teaspoons. Sure. Why not? We got a nod of approval from our videographer / director here. So we're going to say that's 4 teaspoons. And I think like the actual better than bouillon says to like use like warm water, and like warm water, and make sure that it's all dissolved. But like, it's fine. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's completely fine if you don't, if it doesn't fully dissolve, because it will when we're adding it to the dish. So yeah, so we're actually, since we turned up the heat a bit, we're getting a little, like a secondary fond, which is just secondary flavor, so long as it doesn't burn. Some of our grains of rice are translucent, some of them aren't. All of them have soaked up some of that, some of the fond and some of the flavor. I forgot something. You can blame me. The paprika. So I wouldn't do that, but I poured a little bit of the broth in there. So you actually want a whole bunch of paprika. Whole bunch of paprika in here. So this is probably like a tablespoon and a half of paprika. So yeah, don't add your broth yet. That's on me. Tablespoon and a half of paprika. We got mild. Ooh, that's a bit more. We'll be fine. We got mild Italian sausage, so I'm gonna add apparently about half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper. We'll call it a heavy half a teaspoon of red pepper. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Made it spicy enough. Or we have enough spice tolerance. So right now we pretended that we didn't add the broth there, and we added our paprika. And we're just kind of cooking it a bit, just stirring it through. How's that smelling? Good. It's smelling good. Lovely. Okay, so we don't really need to cook the paprika long. If we do it too long, it'll burn. And we don't want that. It's looking good. It's looking good. So, like the paprika is partial for it to just like get a little red just for the coloring, and a lot of it's for the flavor. Like it's good. Paprika's like it's like dried pepper and then ground up, so it goes well with the dish. So then in with our what we'll call 4 cups of broth. There we go. Delightful. And with that, and then remember we have that fond that we've developed at the bottom, or maybe you didn't if it's non-stick. And for me, I'm giving it a scrape. Just making sure we get all those delightful bitties, because those are flavorful. At this point, we're turning up to high. We want to get this to a nice rolling boil. Okay, so it's on high as your pan can handle. I think we got all the bits off the bottom. There we go. Did I miss anything?
Is the lemon for the end?
Yeah, it's for the end. So yeah. So. What's that?
Then I don't think so.
We did. So in with the cilantro stems. So if you were to do, sorry, I kind of had the hiccups all day. If you were to do the cilantro leaves, they kind of just wilt away into nothing, but the stems kind of, they're a little bit more hardy, so they won't just like wilt away into nothingness, and they actually need to be cooked a little bit more, just a touch more. So yeah, so we're just waiting for this to get up to a ripping boil, and then on to the next step. Insert the Jeopardy music. Do 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 do. Oh, it's actually getting close, to be fair. Yeah. So it's just doing its thing. I actually kind of like this stove though. Like that was really quick for it to get like just to this stage of boiling. We wouldn't have had that before, which is cool. Alright, so it is close. I wouldn't call that quite a rolling boil, but I'm just giving it a quick stir just to make sure none of the rice gets stuck to the bottom at this stage. It's fine later on, but right now we don't want it to stick. So that's like, I don't know, that's about as much as you need to boil. Like you could definitely get it more of a ripping boil, but this is fine. So this point, making sure nothing is stuck to the bottom, I shall add my pepper. I probably should have added this with the paprika. This is fine though. It doesn't need to be cooked, or it doesn't need to be like cooked like the paprika should, just to activate it a little bit more. Okay, so we're just stirring that pepper in real quick. I don't know, I'd call that like maybe 1/4 teaspoon for how many grinds we did. Okay, so everything's off the bottom of the pan, on with the lid, and then we're turning it fairly low. I don't know. I haven't really cooked with this, but it's about as low as our stove will go. So that lid's on firmly. That's gonna be boiling pretty aggressively. So that's on low. We set a timer for 20 minutes, okay? And then we do not touch that lid. Timer for 20 minutes. Oh, timer. Timer for 20 minutes. And what we're gonna want to do next is just kind of prep for the end of the dish. So I got some more stems here. We're gonna save this part for garnish. Right there. And then this, just a rough chop. Doesn't have to be perfect. The stems, like you can have some stems in there. It's not going to be the end of the world. If you really don't like the texture of the stems, take them out. For us, we know it's not a big deal. So just something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect in cooking. So that's ready. This one, oh, I should chop that up too, actually. This is for garnish. This is for garnish. We're going to save. it's just nice to have a nice little fresh bite of cilantro on the top. Unless you have failed genes and you don't like cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, use what's called parsley. Parsley, curly parsley, Italian parsley, doesn't matter for this dish. So yeah, I guess we'll leave that at that for another 18 minutes and we'll come back after. The lemon?
Do you want to prep your lemon?
Yeah, why not? Let's prep the lemon. So like if I were actually cooking this myself, I would have kind of done a couple of things different. So before I added the paprika, I actually would have added a little bit of white wine. So probably like a cup of white wine, and just get that on high heat, let it simmer for until there's no more moisture. That just kind of adds like a nice little sweetness in the background. But we're keeping it nice and simple. So if you do have white wine and you have some time, just pour a little bit, like half a cup in there, just until there's like nothing, and you can like you'll be able to like sniff it, and it won't smell like wine. So just cook off the wine that's deglazing the pan. So yeah, so we got our lemon, cut it in half. Ooh, I would also zest the lemon in there, but again, this is just kind of quick and easy. That's the whole point of it. So yeah, so we got 17 minutes left. 17 minutes left on really low, just simmering away. You can probably just hear it just lightly simmering. And then we'll come back on the other side, see how it turns out.